Headline coming, give me some lottery ticket numbers, because I can tell you, we didn't, and barely anybody did. Not a single team selecting in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft, selecting Shedeur Sanders. Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, led FBS in completion percentage, 4th in passing yards, and yet he is still out there. Just a couple months ago, he was in the conversation for the top pick. Heck, right before the draft started on Thursday, he was minus 600 to go in the first round, and he is still undrafted. NFL draft analyst Jordan Reed now joining us from Green Bay. Jordan, you had Sanders graded as your top 20 in your pre-draft rankings. So what's your quick reaction to him falling this far?
The best way to put it, Ryan, is I'm stunned. I'm absolutely floored that Shedeur Sanders is still sitting here on the board. And if you think about it, I think it's more so to do with what's happening off of the field. Now, as far as those questions, I don't know exactly what there are. But if we're just grading the player on the field, I don't see a player that should have made it out of the second round. I had him ranked as my number 19 overall player. He can help a team win football games as a starter. And some of the quarterbacks that went ahead of him, I was floored by some of the names that went ahead of him. I get it. Jackson Dart and him were seen as in a similar tier as going as the second or the third quarterback off of the board. But after that, some of the quarterbacks that went ahead of him, I'm still shocked.
It's stunning. And not only that, you talk about how quarterbacks are these days. You need 2-3 quarterbacks on your team, and he's still out there, so somebody's going to get him. Now, what's a potential landing spot for him as you see it?
I still see the Pittsburgh Steelers at 123 overall. They have the 21st pick today in the 4th round, so I could see them taking him. But once again, they've already passed over him twice. They did it in the 1st round when they selected Derek Harmon, and then they did it yesterday in the 3rd round when they selected running back Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. So what's different? They possibly could pass on him again if you didn't select him on day 2. Now, why would you select him on day 3? What's the difference? So I still see the Pittsburgh Steelers as a logical landing spot just because they don't have a starting quarterback right now outside of Mason Rudolph. They've gone back and forth with Aaron Rodgers, but he still has yet to decide what he's going to do. I believe Shedeur Sanders could come in right away and be the starting quarterback in Pittsburgh, especially for a team that just signed DK Metcalf to a big-time long-term extension. You still have George Pickens there as well. They need a starting quarterback. Shedeur Sanders will be a great option for them.
Yeah, he's got the toughness, he's got the skills, he's got the accuracy. We'll see if somebody picks him up today at the draft. All right, so now we're in through 3 rounds. Which team for you has had the best draft so far and why?
I think the New England Patriots have knocked it out of the park. They had a major question mark at left tackle. They take one of the best left tackles in this year's draft, in the LSU offensive tackle, Will Campbell. He's going to be penciled in as their day 1 starter. After that, they come back and they get Travion Henderson, who was my 3rd ranked running back. He could have went potentially as high as Denver as number 20 overall. They get him at the top of the 2nd round. Kyle Williams, a very underrated receiver out of Washington State. They have 14 touchdowns, and then they come back. They double dip with offensive line. They get center Jared Wilson, who's probably going to be your long-term answer behind Garrett Bradbury this year, an elite tester and a staple of the Georgia program over the past 3 seasons.
Okay, could be a big bump for Mike Vrabel and Drake May there in New England. We'll see how that all plays out for them. The draft, we're going to see how that plays out today. It continues starting at noon Eastern on ESPN. Jordan, thanks. Let me tell you, the Shedeur Sanders free fall might take the cake. Not a single team selecting in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft took the Colorado quarterback. The Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year and son of Deion led the FBS in completion percentage, 4th in passing yards. Just a couple months ago was in the conversation for the top pick. Heck, right before the draft started on Thursday, he was minus 600 to go in the first round, and yet he is still out there. A shock. Meanwhile, there were 3 other quarterbacks taken on day 2 of the NFL draft, including that guy, Tyler Shuck out of Louisville. First one off the board to New Orleans, making him the highest drafted quarterback to the Saints since Archie Manning over 50 years ago. 3rd round, Seattle sent a message by taking Jalen Milroe from Alabama, the 92nd pick overall. First time Seattle took a QB in the first 3 rounds since Russell Wilson in 2012. The lone non-transfer quarterback taken so far. 2 picks later, Cleveland finally came for their quarterback, going with Oregon's Dylan Gabriel, who finished a storied college career this season with the most career starts and touchdowns responsible for in FBS history. But back to Shedeur, because last night, that whole situation had Mel Kiper Jr. apoplectic.
All I can say is, I think it's disgusting. I don't understand what the heck's going on with this. 5th player on my board. It's never happened before in 47 years where a player that high has dropped this far into the 4th round at quarterback. It's sitting there in round 4 with other quarterbacks being taken who aren't as good as Shedeur, aren't even close, in my opinion, in terms of accuracy, toughness. arm strength is certainly more than good enough. I don't see, outside of not being have the rocket arm and the 4.6 speed and a big frame, the 6'3", 230-pound frame, what is he lacking? Somebody's going to have to explain that one to me. 4th round, Kirk Cousins went. 4th round, Dak Prescott went. Worked out pretty good for them. It's just that Shedeur was projected a lot higher than they were. That's why we're having this discussion.
Indeed. SportsCenter on the road, presented by Geico. We need NFL front office insider Mike Tannenbaum to come in and explain this to us and bring some sense to it. Mike, what is your reaction to 5 quarterbacks getting drafted before Shedeur Sanders?
Ryan, I am absolutely stunned. Here's a player that started 37 games, led the nation in completion percentage. He's also incredibly tough. He was sacked 94 times over 2 seasons and only missed 1 game. He was my 2nd quarterback on the board, very similar to Mel. I thought he was a 1st-round pick that could come in and start right away because of anticipation and accuracy. I cannot believe that a team in the first 3 rounds, 102 players were drafted and didn't draft Shedeur Sanders. Ryan, one of the things you have to understand is the NFL is the ultimate meritocracy. Every team has the same amount of money. Every team has the same amount of draft choices. And not one team thought that Shedeur Sanders could help them win when 5 quarterbacks have already gone. I was part of the Miami Dolphins in 2016, and we drafted Laremy Tunsil. He was the #1 guy on our board. Laremy Tunsil was a great player, a great person. He obviously hit a bump in the road, and we saw it as an unexpected opportunity. Johnny Manziel came out, a lot of questions about his background. He won in the 1st round. The fact that we're sitting here talking about the 4th round is unbelievable what has happened, given the fact that this guy's been such a good player over 37 games.
And Sanders doesn't have the kind of bumps that you're mentioning with the 2 previous guys you mentioned. And not only that, I mean, in many ways, I say it again, this was a guy who was in the conversation to be the top pick not too long ago. And now here we are. Much more from the draft coming up ahead, including where Shedeur should land.
And what are the kind of conversations that are happening behind the scenes that could lead to a historic slide like this for Sanders?
You know, Amina, it must be something off the field because, again, we talked earlier in the show. This is somebody that started 37 games, led the nation in accuracy. He has over 11,000 yards. This guy is a 1st-round pick when you look at what happened on the field. So clearly, either the interviews at the combine, and there was certainly some noise about did he rub some people the wrong way, but Amina, over the last 20 years, that happens all the time. Baker Mayfield rubbed people the wrong way. Johnny Manziel did, and they were still, drafted in the 1st round. So I think there were probably some concerns about, is he coachable? Is he humble? But it's still inexplicable that even with those concerns, that he would slide 102 spots at a minimum.
Yeah, just mind-blowing that Shedeur Sanders went from a possible 1st-round pick to missing both the 2nd and 3rd round, and now we're heading into the 3rd day of the NFL draft. With that being said, where could he end up on an NFL team? Where exactly in the NFL?
The